All right, everybody, welcome back to our Major League Rugby draft show. This is part 3. We're talking about the second round. We did an intro, and then we did round 1, and then here we are with round 2 in our third part of it. Before we get into it, I'm with Doug Coil, of course, and Tim Brown from DCL Glory, and Mike Tolkin, who's coached at the highest levels all over the United States and won championships at all of them. Not coincidentally. I'm Alex Coil from Goff Rugby Report, and we're going to get into round 2. So, Doug, here we are, round 2, starting with number 13 pick, Dallas. What are Dallas's needs right now?
I think with Dallas, I'm looking for adding backup strength. We exhausted a lot of our props. You could have a Matthew Davey from Indiana, but I think hooker's going to be a position. You have Chad Goff is going to occupy the primary role, very active hooker. He's 30 years old at this point. So I think you have Lindenwood, Stephen McLeish that could play hooker or back row, which is an interesting combination. You have Penn State Leon Patel champion. The negative about him, visa issue. You have a Texas guy that's maybe better suited for Houston. They don't have a pick. Dylan Shotwell, Sam Houston State. Or do I go with a potential lock back row that I could develop in a Michael Johnson from Indiana? I think a prop, they have a Texas Tech prop, Nicholas Afuamungo.
There you go.
I'm not from Texas Tech. I'm not sure a lot about him. I haven't seen anything. He might be a free agent.
He's a big boy. He's a good ball runner, and I agree.
250 pounds.
Yeah.
More a free agent, maybe.
Right, and I'd go along with Shotwell probably on that too.
And it was mentioned about the whole issue of scrum half. It's interesting. Dallas Reds have 2 professional scrum halves. Connor Murphy. Connor's busy with full-time job these days, but you had somebody that played in the Premiership, played with Houston, and then probably a little bit older player, Chris Saint, played professionally as well. So I'm not sure. I would certainly twist Connor's arm a little bit, try to get him on the team. So I think I'm going with a hooker. And my pick is Stephen McLeish from Lindenwood.
Real quick, agree with you on that. He's a really good ball runner. And you've got Chad Goff, who was a Schultz Award finalist way back in 2016. And then Stephen McLeish, who was a Schultz Award nominee this year, mostly for his ability to get around the park as well as get his throws in and get his runs in. Mike, what do you see?
One thing about round 2 is that this is the time where you're going to take some chances. You're going to really solidify your backup players if you can get solid young players to back up in the skill positions. When you get a skill position as an American, it really can save you a lot of money as a coach, because usually the skill positions are imported. That costs you visa fees, housing fees, a lot of different things, and salary. The salary is going to be higher. So if you can get some good hookers, scrum halves, what have you, and as an American guy, it's really a big help. So I picked McLeish already, I believe.
Yep.
I'm going to go with Leon Patel champion. I know he may have the visa issue, but I think that we'll go with him. There's a guy, Calvin Gentry, who I'm not sure if you guys mentioned.
Yeah.
Strong runner. I give a nod to him as well, but I think they're going to go with the backup hooker there.
Tom Capriati might be an option. Another Penn State guy. I'm a fan of his.
Just finished his junior year, and this isn't the year for him.
That's not the year.
I think it's probably next year.
Exactly. And that's always a consideration in terms of whether they're going to stick around. And nobody's going to waste a pick to wait, I don't think, Round 14, Los Angeles. What are we looking for here? Because we have a number of really talented players that some of us have not picked yet. So
I think as the splash they made, in their introduction, I think that's going to continue with some glitzy imports being brought in. And I think mainly in the skill positions and the back positions. So I think that they are going to have some talent that they bring in. So I think they're going to take some chances and get some big American bodies. This is where I see some of the big locks who potentially might not be ready right now, but brought in. So this is where I have Casey Renault, Mike Johnson as options. For me, it's going to be Renault. I don't have Renault in any, but the 6'8" lock goes from Vermont and Ben & Jerry's to Venice Beach.
That's right, fish tacos.
The fish tacos.
I've got Tommy Clark still on my list, so I'm putting Tommy Clark in Los Angeles for the same reason. Not quite as tall, but could fill in a lot throughout the second and back row.
My two guys on the board would be Tommy Clark and Mike Johnson. I think Tommy Clark fits into more of the culture in the area. So I'm going to pick Clark on that basis.
Tim, in terms of we talk about the foreigner thing and the local thing. We used to talk about this with the Super League, stuff like that. The temptation to always just say 9 and 10 overseas guys.
Yeah.
And they say, well, can't you get an American in there and development? Because but it's going to take me a couple of years, and I could get somebody else who's much more comfortable. What are you guys talking about?
Well, I mean,
level.
I wish there's 9 and 10s available that are U.S. players, but I mean, let's be honest, the bar's been set. And when we like, for instance, when we go and play Atlanta, they had a domestic 9 and I believe an international 10. I think the domestic 9 was from overseas originally, so he had that higher level training. And then they've got a 10 who's very established. I would say we don't have a choice. I mean, we have owners with high expectations. We have fans with high expectations. And if you put a 9 and 10 out that are learning the game or learning how to adjust to each other, maybe you can do it in 2-3 years, but that's a long experimentation phase. And it's same thing in the NFL. Are you going to go with an untested quarterback or take the guy that can recognize a blitz and bail out? So I'd love to see some really well developed, and it is happening. I mean, you look at these universities recruiting. I see this Cardiff Met guy recruiting premier U.S. high school players over. I've sent some kids over to Cork to play from high school that we wanted at my university. So hopefully we're getting to the point where the U.S. players will be there. But again, if they're out there, we want to find them and we want them in here, and hopefully we can. That's where also, though, where Coach Tolkin will tell you this, it's going to come from the players recruiting internally. This year before there was a draft, it's nice to be able to talk to guys that have been playing on the U.S. national team forever, like Threaten, and get the real rundown on a guy. I mean, he'll tell you straight up, like, this guy's a worker, or he can handle stress, he can handle pressure. But if they're out there, I want to find them. But they are there. They're just maybe not as good. I mean, if you look at our 9 and 10, we had of the all-league team, we had the 9 and the 10 this year. And I'll tell you, it's an eye-opener for me to see the way those guys move and train and their spacing and just the subtle 2 steps that they have on everyone before everyone else is moving. I mean, Danny is really, really good, our scrum half. And Jason is just as good. I mean, so it's tough. It's tough for a U.S. player to play with those guys.
Round 15, Utah. So talk about skill positions. There may be a place for a skill position there. And I want to bring out a player that we haven't really talked about, but I think we should talk about. Matty Rogers from Arizona, a really exciting scrum half, but also somebody who has a little bit of versatility about him. He's not a big guy, but he is quick. He can fill in at fullback. He can kick. He can probably fill in at 10 for, somebody's got an injury. You got to finish the game with somebody at 10. He could do that, and certainly slide out to the wing as well. And with the way benches work right now, you basically sometimes you're working with two players to fill in all your backline positions. So Matty Rogers might be somebody to talk about as we get to this level with Utah. But Doug and Mike, what does Utah need?
This is, I think, their third pick of the draft. So they've addressed a little bit up front. In terms of my selections, if you look at halfback, Matt Rogers, good player, out of the Arizona program, but you also have Ken Kurihara out of Cal, who is a steady, solid player, a goal kicker, who would be, both of those guys would be great guys to have come up in a backup role, development, and succession plan. So you look at those two are good. I think that Renault will be gone. They also could use a lock over there. Mike Johnson might be a third pick for them, or it could be a fourth pick for them, the big lock.
Yeah.
So that's something. And then the backup hooker is another option. So for me, I'm going to lean towards the scrum half, where they can get an American halfback, develop at a skill position. The two halfbacks I mentioned are good players. I am going to go with, on this one, I'm going to go with Matt Rogers.
Good.
A little better there.
Another halfback, not to forget, would be Darren Chen out of Northeastern. I don't think he's going to get drafted, but I love the guy. And just Darren, you're good. Go ahead.
Another possibility are centers. So Watson, Philly,
Katanga
might be a possibility there. But big question. Do you take a 6'6" guy like Mike Johnson? Do you go with a backup scrum half, or do you go with a center? If you want to develop a skill position, Matty Rogers is probably going to be gone before Utah picks again. Maybe not. I'm going to go with Matty Rogers.
All right. Matt Rogers sweeps it, actually, just sort of out of nowhere comes in. And next up, Austin has another pick and perhaps some needs up front and not a lot of options, maybe.
Austin has another problem with they need a versatile front row / hooker backup. They need to get bigger there. That's not happening. They could choose a hooker. He needs somebody that's bulky to step in there. Perhaps maybe Callum Haddock could fill that role. I don't know if they want to use a draft pick for them. So if you're going to use a international spot, you could choose the backup hooker, Leon Patel Champion. If you want, I think Michael Johnson would be undersized, just weight-wise for Austin. I don't think he would be a good fit.
So what's your pick?
I'm going to go with Callum Haddock.
All right, that's a nice pick. Mike Tolkin, what's your pick on round 16 with the Gilgronis?
I think the Gilgronis are still a little bit of a flash like LA. They're going to replace some of those older backs with they're going to bring in some younger people from out of town. And I think they're going to go up front with some American beef guy that I haven't put in yet. I don't know if any of us have, but Brandon Tellis. I don't know if he's been picked yet, but
he was picked very early by Doug, and I have not picked him yet. So
I am going to go with him. He has ball-winning capabilities.
Okay, so Bronson Tellis.
Bronson.
Yeah. Bronson, like Charles Bronson, right?
Hey.
Round 17, then Seattle Seawolves. They've got a number of options there, and a couple of us went with the Louis Satama connection early on, and this time, that's a center, and Doug, you picked Brian Knowlton there at prop there.
I'm going to return to Louis Satama this time as my pick.
All right, good.
Think he could be gone, Doug, by this time.
Could
I
well be
didn't pick him
gone.
before.
I know he's not on your
Yeah.
Facebook, on your board.
Yeah. If he wasn't available, I would pick Zarcone.
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 Cole Zarcone. Yeah. So that's a nice pick there, Cole Zarcone. Mostly a wing, but he's a big physical guy. And I think, guys, one of the things coming out of college is a lot of your wings are smaller and picked for speed. But professional rugby, you need a lot more power and strength. Well, I'm looking around and I think that Callum Haddock potentially. I'm looking at now the best player that I have available. One guy that hasn't been mentioned is second row, Campbell Johnson out of Kennesaw State. He's a good, strong, big body, understands how to play. Very good in high school as well. But I'm going to keep him for Atlanta, I think, and I'm going to go with Callum Haddock.
I'm looking at a backup hooker here, Herkowitz as one possibility. And also Ellingson, who I didn't mention. I mentioned him, but I didn't pick him, I don't believe. I don't know if you could verify that for me. So I mentioned him a few times.
And you picked Ellingson and
for San Diego.
Okay. And you had Philly Katonga as your
as I mentioned. Okay. Not round 12, pick 12. Okay, then I am going to say that.
Yeah, all right. So what's
I think that Seattle is going to pick Philly Katonga.
Okay.
Watson, Philly Katonga, that wing.
Right. Good. I don't think I've got Philly Katonga in there yet. So he's like, where's the love here? Okay, so moving on to round 18, New England. Some question there about what we're going to do there, whether we're going to spill out into some of the what we call the skill positions. Some of where some of the college players are a little bit smaller, or maybe they need a little bit more time. Eric Naposki or Sian Barry from UCLA. I'm actually a big Levi Van Lannen fan out of Wisconsin Whitewater, Division II player, but somebody who I think has that heart and that desire to play at the higher level. We've been talking a lot about Mike Johnson at second row. We haven't, and I mentioned Campbell Robinson. Calvin Gentry still lurking there, as is Ken Kurahara, the scrum half. Darren Chen. I'm throwing out some of Patrick Madden. Don't forget, Schultz Award finalist, but still a junior. So is that something that he's just sort of going to go through the thing? And
Sian Barry. He's entering his senior year, but New England has the connection with the Jesters.
Yeah.
It's an interesting connection.
Yeah, that's his dad is big on that group. Another player to think about, Ani Mateto from Lindenwood, excellent kicking foot, and that would be your guy in terms of getting out of trouble. Mateto might be an interesting pick. So, I'm checking our notes from earlier. The one other guy we haven't mentioned, Joey Freeman. Penn State loose forward, really excellent player, great pedigree, somebody to look at. So what does New England need?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned Freeman. I'm going to stay consistent with New England, and I said that they were going to build through some back rowers. Joe Freeman was one of my selections for them, along with Eric Naposki, who I think is a Connecticut kid. Yeah. Really dangerous player. Some people might think he's a little undersized. A very good runner, a dangerous player. So I'm going to go with Freeman for New England.
All right, I'm gonna follow in your footsteps there, Mike, and not even comment any further. That's good, Doug. What do you like?
I like Freeman. He's from Silver Springs, Maryland. He's going to be an old glory guy if he's not picked. I think I'm going to go with Eric Naposki.
All right, good. Part of the Gonzaga group there. So, Tim, we'll be bringing you back in a little bit. We're just running through fast.
I'm great, man.
All right, good, excellent.
Taking note.
Moving on to Utah and some there are still some locks out there, and I actually, if I'm excited about any of this stuff, in terms of the talent level. I'm excited about the loss. We end up talking about stuff like Samsi and Cootie at Bowling Green. They're a really good second row forward. I mentioned Robinson. Mike Matarazzo out of Notre Dame played a little number 8 as well. Kelly Fernandi out of Virginia Tech. Not bad player at all. We're talking about guys who've got height and range and are physical. And that excites me. I wonder if one of those guys is going to end up in Utah. Doug, what do you see for Utah?
Well, Mike Johnson's still available, but there are still a couple prop possibilities, even though we selected him. But they could go with a second prop, Elijah Hayes. They could go for bulk with Max Kudidi. I'm going to go with Elijah Hayes from Iowa Central.
It's a nice one. Interesting. So going back up to the front row. Mike, what do you see?
Yep, I think this is a time again where they're going to go with some big bodies. Why not try it? It could be a high risk, high reward, but if a big body works out for you, it's a keeper. So I'm going to go with Elijah Hayes as well.
Well, that's good. Well, let's make it 3 for 3. I like that. That's a good pick from Doug Coil to shake it up a little bit.
I gotta tell my son to play lock or prop.
That's right. And if he plays baseball, he better be a left-handed hitting catcher.
Exactly.
Or maybe switch
Or
hitting.
pitcher,
Yeah,
lefty
that's right.
pitcher, and a long snapper.
This is a redeeming show for us that had trouble finding clothes.
So that's Atlanta at round 20. There's a local guy in Campbell Robinson. I kind of feeling like that might be a possibility. Cole Zarcone is still available, and Calvin Gentry is still available. Yeah.
Annie Meto?
Mateto. Annie Mateto. Just mentioned
He's
him.
from South Africa.
Yeah. So South African, good kicker, good fullback. Dangerous player there. So I'm gonna. I think I'm going to go with Zarcone. I think I'm going to get them somebody on the wing. I think he's a really interesting, intriguing kind of player for me. So Cole Zarcone on the wing for Atlanta. Mike, what do you think?
It's funny. I have Zarcone down for Atlanta as well as their pick. He's a player he reminds me a lot of Tim Stanfill, the winger, who isn't flash, but works his butt off, scored a hell of a lot of tries, and is just a good player. I think Cole is that type of player who isn't flash, doesn't get a lot of attention, but does his job really well. And I think he works out in that system.
Very good. I was lucky. And Doug?
I'm going with the Kansas State player, Campbell Robinson.
Good. Nice. Excellent player. Good pick and a good product, local product as well, not just from Kennesaw State, but from high school as well. Round 21, Rooney. What are they looking for, guys?
I think that they could you're always looking at the at props if there was someone available, a second row, or a local product with some ability there. So Elijah Hayes is taken already. He was one possibility. Naposki is a player from Connecticut who I just mentioned. He could be one. And then you have Filikatangi I assigned already, but he's an Iona guy, as is Powers. So for me, it's between Naposki and Powers. Powers is a fly half wing. Good player.
Solid passer? Excuse me, I'm sorry. We got a little bit of thing from Ruckie Analytics on John Powers, and he's a very good passer. Probably needs to work on his kicking a little bit. That's not really a surprise. Very good tackler, as is most of the team on coming out of Iona. So
I've seen Powers play a number of times. He's a good player. I'm going to go with Naposki for this one. Very close one, but I think they'll take a run on Naposki.
I haven't used Cole Zarcone, and I haven't used Philly Kitanga. So I'm going to use Philly Kitanga for Rooney.
All right, Watson Faliki. Okay, well, Doug, I'm going to go with you as well. Watson Faliki Tonga, great runner. Going to college locally, and they've seen a lot of him if they want to, right? So there's something to be said for somebody who just powers through tacklers and scores tries. So he does very well there. He also does very well in offloading out of contact. So that's a big pick for that. So Filiki Tonga for me as well. So we'll go to round 22, almost finishing up here. Los Angeles Giltinis. Who fits in there as they try to build that team?
If they go with some of the superstars and spend some of the money I think they're going to spend, they're going to also need some domestic guys at backup skill positions. And for that reason, I'm going to go with a backup scrum half for them. And I'm going to pick Ken Kurihara out of Cal. I think a good complete player and a pedigree of Cal program. So I think he will be a good addition from them down the highway.
Ken is from Japan, so they're occupying a visa spot, but you're talking about excellent location for that, and that would be my pick as well.
You know what? I'm going to shake it up just a little bit. I'm going to go with Darren Chan from Northeastern. Good leader, good scrum half, also a very good goal kicker. Actually, Kurihara can kick as well. So here's Kurihara is a West Coast kid on a West Coast team. Chan is a Boston area kid going on a West Coast team. I think they both could be developed nicely. So I'll go with Chan. So going on to round 23. DCO Glory, Tim Brown refuses to tell us who he's going to pick. So that's uncool. But
it's not me doing the pick.
Oh, I know. You're not picking, right? And you're not going to tell us your deficiencies, right? You're not going to say that you've got
well,
it.
Coach Tolkin did make a good point. I think the world of our young props, and even though that was a glaring, I mean, we needed to work on it.
Yeah.
They were so young, and we had, I think, aged 22 and 23 out there for props. That's like a baby. I mean,
and 20,
yeah. Like,
I mean, if they all stayed healthy, you had
yeah
3 guys who were under 22.
Yeah, and they're all U.S. guys too, which is nice.
All right. Well, I'm going to make you put your back up your sentiments in terms of looking for that American fly half, and I'm going to make you pick John Powers. How about that?
I will
see what happens.
I will research him.
Put him under your wing. Take some time, right? Maybe a later round pick. Maybe it's time to say this is a longer term pick. I don't know. Now, having said that, I know that I haven't picked Ellingson yet, and I'm probably going to have to pick him, put him in for San Diego the next one. I feel really bad about that. But anyway, John Powers for me. It's on you now, Tim. That's it. You have the responsibility.
Great. I'm actually taking more notes on these later ones from what you guys are saying than the earlier ones, because this is where you got to do a lot of research in these last 8.
Doug, what do you see?
Well, I don't see Old Glory picking these players, but if you were looking at 2 props, you still have Max Kuditi and Matthew Davey available. But judging from Old Glory Capital Selects, playing USA Rugby South often, I'm going to go with Calvin Gentry, who's still available.
Very nice.
They're going to be familiar, and they need a backup center.
Well, I was thinking of Calvin Gentry as a center too, but I also was thinking about Jihad Kabir, talented, athletic guy.
Yeah,
from the DC area, I believe.
Here's the question about Jihad Kabir is that he's been graduated for a year, so that's the issue as to whether he's actually a draft appropriate player.
The other consideration with him is he works in D.C., now likely to leave the job, so Oguri is going to get him anyway.
Yeah, right.
So that would be a waste of time.
DJ, how do you know all this stuff? I mean, like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's just impressive. I mean,
So I am going to pick for the DC 23rd pick. I'm going to go with Calvin Gentry.
Beautiful. Gentry playing well. So, and finally, the final draft pick, a lot of options there. Might be interesting to see San Diego pick Patrick Madden. He's a local kid. He's going to finish school, so they wouldn't use him for a year, but he would be settled in there. I think that's still a risk with just the 2 rounds. I'm missing either Calvin Gentry or Derek Ellingson. Is somebody one of those players I'm feeling not happy about having left off the list, but I'm going to put Derek Ellingson in for San Diego for me.
I'm going to add some Midwest beef out to the West Coast, and I am going to have Spencer Kruger join LA.
Tough prop from Ohio State and Doug Coil.
I'm leaning toward 2 players, and it's a toss-up. Do I choose Cole Zarcone or do I choose Derek Ellington? I'm going to go with Cole Zarcone.
That's a good thing because you already picked Ellingson for round 12. So.
Oh, I did.
Yeah, so you're good. You're good. All right, well, that gives us our 2 rounds. Some places will an awful lot of agreement, and even when there's some disagreement, we'll often have that same team pick someone later on that's the same guy. It's been really interesting to see that. And we'll be back with our 4th part of this and just have a look at some of the players we missed and some of the players who might be able to be free agents, undrafted free agents who could still sign with the Major League Rugby team. This is your Major League Rugby Draft Show. We'll be back for round 4.